Star Wars Republic Commando is possibly one of the most underrated Star Wars game that ever existed. We currently live in a time where we have plenty of Star Wars content to consume, with even more on the way, but most of them are things like TV shows and movies. In this age, Star Wars games have taken a back seat and aren't produced all that often, but it wasn't always like this. In the early 2000s, there were many Star Wars games that I can confidently say were incredible and very innovative for their time, with Republic Commando being one of those games. Its gameplay still holds up to this day. In this video, I'll be going through my full analysis and review of Republic Commando, and I'll be keeping it relatively spoiler free. I'll be making more content in the future, so make sure to subscribe. So what makes Republic Commando so goddamn amazing? Well, lock and load, Commando, and let's find out. So let me start off with a little bit of history about the game. So Star Wars Republic Commando is a tactical first-person shooter game developed and published by LucasArts. If you remember this logo, then you're one of the OG gamers from back in the day. The game was released for PC and Xbox on March 2005, roughly 17 years ago. Later on, a port of the game was developed by Aspyr Studios for the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4, which was released earlier this year. Now, if the name Aspyr Studios sound familiar to you, they're the ones creating the remake of one of the most popular and iconic RPG games of all time, Knights of the Old Republic 1, which is set to release sometime in the near future. Republic Commando was released around the same time as other well-known and very notable games, such as KOTOR 2, Mortal Kombat Deception, Spider-Man 2, based off the Sam Raimi movies, God of War 1, Doom 3 and its DLC, Resurrection of Evil, and finally, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, among many more. So as you can see, Republic Commando had some very tough competition to go against, and therefore, it actually makes sense why it was overshadowed and did not reach the popularity it rightfully deserves. And I actually hope to rectify that with this video, and hopefully get more people interested in it. Since I am not a professional reviewer, I'll be doing this review in a systematic and logical way, starting with the download and installation of the game. So the download of the game was pretty straightforward because I bought the game on Steam. It has a file size of roughly 2 GB, which is nothing in today's age. Now, because the game is so old, the game does not support higher widescreen resolutions, but thankfully the community have created a fix for this. The link to the fix and instructions on how to install it are in the description. So now that I had applied the fix, the game was ready for me to enjoy. So let's start with the story. So the story of Republic Commando takes place during one of the most critical events within the Star Wars universe, the Clone Wars. The story of this game runs parallel to the main events of the movies, which I think is a very good thing, because this allows the game to have full freedom with how they do the story, and just have a few plot points that connect to the main storyline. The campaign of Republic Commando takes approximately 10 hours to complete on normal difficulty. Now, since the campaign is relatively short, there's not a lot of planets you'll be going to, so that was a bit disappointing. Regardless, I felt that the length of the campaign is just right, not too long and not too short. However, I felt that in some areas of the game, the campaign was stretched out to pad the runtime, but that was pretty rare. The campaign has you going through 3 main locations: Geonosis, an abandoned Republic assault ship, and finally Kashyyyk. So what happens when you start the campaign? Well, the intro is one of my most favorite parts of the entire game. It is short and sweet. It doesn't waste your time with hours of backstory and pointless narration. You get to see the creation of a clone commando starting from their birth within a cloning tube on the planet Kamino. You get to see the mental training the clones go through while they're just children on the way of becoming a clone commando. The scene is very similar to what we see in Star Wars Episode 2, when Obi-Wan visits Kamino and is taken on a tour around the cloning facility. The next scene shows the physical training all of the clones go through, but a clone commando is, well...
And in this regard, you will be superior to your more common brethren.
My favorite part about this intro is the scene where you equip your helmet. The music that accompanies the entire intro is just masterful, and if there's any game that has a scene where you equip a helmet, your game is automatically going to be amazing. Finally, it then introduces your squad members who will be under your command. Now each squad member is unique and has a great dynamic within the team, although they are a bit cliche. But since this game came out before this became a cliche, this game gets a free pass from me. But one thing that differentiates your squad from other games and groups is the dynamic between Scorch and Sev. I absolutely love the back and forth banter between them. Their personalities are polar opposites, with Sev having a more serious or brooding personality, while Scorch has a light-hearted and humorous personality. They have a great brotherly relation with each other, and they have some of the most funniest banter I've ever heard in a game. It feels so natural and organic, which is very difficult to accomplish when you're introducing new characters without hours of backstory.
Someone important noted your excellence on geonosis. You hear that, Sev? Someone thinks I'm excellent.
Well, at least that makes two of you.
Delta Squad, prepare for low-gravity infiltration. Seal your suits. Good luck.
Watch it. They've got concussion rifles.
Trandoshan eliminated.
Let's get a hold of that concussion rifle.
Hey, Sev. This one looks like your mother. Scorch, in position. Why won't they just die?
Try aiming instead of talking.
Now, without giving away spoilers, this amazing dynamic between the two makes a certain part of the story difficult. Let's just say I was quite annoyed and I would have preferred that the event happened to someone else, but that's all I'll say. The event was supposed to be elaborated upon in a future sequel or book, but that never really happened. Let's not forget about Boss, the character that we play as, and yes, that's literally his name, Boss. Being the leader of an elite group, you would expect he has some sharp teeth, and that he does. He has some great dialogue to let you know that he really is the boss.
Oh, one of the deluxe models. Come to save us with your superior training.
This deluxe model is the only thing standing between you and a bloody death, so you'd best be showing some respect, Trooper.
Yes, sir. What are your orders, sir?
Hold the line. Kill any lizards you see. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
Will do, sir.
Alone against all these droids? They don't stand a chance.
Now the funny thing is, before playing this game, I never really cared much about the clones and never really took an interest. I had always been more interested in Sith and Mandalorian cultures, but after playing this game and experiencing a darker and greedier side of Star Wars, I've become obsessed. So much so that I went back to Battlefront 2, the new one, and I've been playing as a clone commando exclusively. I really love these clone commandos because they remind me of elite units from other science fiction games, like Noble Team from Halo Reach or the N7 Division within Mass Effect. So I'm glad that Star Wars has their own version of elite units, and they really don't disappoint. After playing the game, I really needed to know whether the story is canon within Star Wars Disney universe, and well, it kind of is. See, the game came out roughly 9 years before Disney acquired the license to the IP, and the Clone Wars was nowhere near as refined as it is today. Actually, it wasn't until the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch TV shows that these events were expanded upon. The overall plot of this game is not canon. However, the game's characters are canon, specifically Delta Squad, and thanks to the Clone Wars TV show, in the episode Witches of the Mist, we see Delta Squad bringing back a dead Jedi. We can see all 4 of them in the scene, which confirms that Delta Squad remained intact throughout the war and were on the Republic's side. Also, I have to admit just how badass they look. I mean, seriously. Funny thing is, in the Bad Batch episode called War Mantle, we can clearly see Scorch within an Imperial training facility as a trainer for the new Imperial Army. This happens right after the Republic was dissolved and the Empire becomes the new primary faction. This has led to all kinds of wild theories as to what happened to the other members, or whether Delta Squad willingly goes over to the Empire, or if they decide to stay on the Republic but work as double agents. Hopefully one day we find out. Now, I wanted to discuss the graphics and audio of this game because they were very ahead of their time, and the music is just phenomenal. I'll start off with the user interface. It is pretty clean and straightforward, exactly what you would expect if you were a commando. You have the option of either showing the visor or hiding it completely, something that most FPS games don't even have. Personally, I play with the visor showing because it's more immersive. The visor shows all kinds of info right within your peripheral vision, like your shields and health are shown at the bottom, each of your squad's health are shown on the bottom left, and your grenades are shown on the bottom right. But this is where I have a problem. See, the game does not tell you, nor does it show you, that there are multiple different types of grenades. The game has dedicated tutorials on how to heal yourself, how to pick up ammo, and how to throw your grenade, which are just very basic actions, yet they never tell you that there are multiple types of grenades. I accidentally figured that out during the final act of the campaign when I was going through the settings. Some grenades are extremely good against certain enemies, so it would have been nice to have that info available straight away. The game also has this feature where your visor self-cleans and self-repairs itself after you take damage or after you kill an enemy, which is something you won't find in many games. Now imagine games like Doom or Halo with this effect. Now that is something I would love to see. Moving on from the user interface, the graphics of this game still hold up to this day, unless you were born after 2010 and are spoiled by all the graphics in modern games. Also, I think it needs to be said, if you're someone that cares more about graphics over gameplay or story, then you should maybe go watch a movie instead. But that's getting beside the point. The art style of this game follows the general style and direction of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. The game, just like the movie, is a darker and grittier version of Star Wars that we didn't usually see back in the day. Like for example, seeing blood splatters on your visor, which is something that we never really saw in Star Wars. You also have really dark areas, corridors and hallways, and in some cases they're pitch black, and that's where the different visor modes come in. So first is your standard visor mode. It's nothing special, there's no special information that is shown to you. The next one is called Tactical mode, which is, I would say, the mode that you'll be in most of the time. In this mode, your squad are highlighted to make them easier to see and keep track of. Finally, you have Dark mode. You'll be using this when an area is pitch black. Now I have to say that I love that they actually implemented this in the game. While there's not that many areas in the game where you'll be using this mode, the fact that they actually put in the effort to create this niche feature makes me appreciate this game even more. These niche little features is something that is heavily lacking in today's gaming scene. Now that's pretty much it for the visuals, but what about the sounds? Well, this game has an incredible soundtrack, all the way from its ambient music to its combat music. It's rare for me to love every track within a game, but this game's soundtrack does that for me. The game's soundtrack is based on Mandalorian-themed ambient and combat music, and I love it. The sound of the war drums, coupled with the chants in the background, it's just amazing. The vocals are strong and memorable, and they're spoken in the Mandalorian language. Now I wanted to talk about the final and most important aspect, and that's its gameplay. So overall, the gameplay is relatively straightforward in Republic Commando. The game functions somewhat similar to Halo Combat Evolved. However, in Republic Commando, there's not a lot of verticality, meaning that you won't be jumping around a lot, if at all, and there's not a lot of parkouring that you'll be doing. That's because the level design is pretty linear throughout the game, so there's not much exploration that you'll be doing. But honestly, I am perfectly fine with that. These kinds of true linear games have become a relic of the past. Almost every game nowadays has meaningless exploration and secrets or collectibles that you have to collect for some sort of arbitrary achievement. This game has maybe 2 or 3 Easter eggs, but that's really all there is, and they are optional of course. So for your weapons, you have 2 weapons that are part of your main kit as a clone commando, while the third weapon is a temporary weapon that you can pick up from your enemies. Your first weapon is your trusty DC-15 sidearm. It has unlimited ammo, but you have to wait for the gun to recharge once the bar is depleted. Your second weapon, which will be your main weapon, is the DC-17 blaster rifle. I have to admit, I love the way this weapon looks. I think this weapon might be my most favorite weapon in Star Wars. I just love the squared shape of this gun, and it even sounds like your typical Star Wars gun.
Well done, sir.
The game gives you 2 weapon attachments that will attach onto your DC-17 blaster rifle. So the first attachment is the sniper. It has its own ammo type and it deals a significant amount of single target damage. It sounds pretty beefy and it really packs a punch.
Sniper mode. Very accurate. Very deadly.
Excellent shot, sir.
Your second attachment is the anti-armor. This basically functions as your grenade launcher, and it too has its own ammo type.
Behind you, 3-8.
An anti-armor attachment. This should come in handy against all these droids.
It deals quite a bit of AoE damage, but it is very effective against stronger clankers, like the super battle droids or the droidicas. And that's pretty much it for the attachments. For your third slot, you have the option of picking up a temporary weapon, and there are quite a lot of them. These weapons are usually dropped by stronger enemies, or you can find them lying around. Like for example, the Geonosian Elite has a powerful beam weapon that melts just about anyone, so if these elites target you or your squad mates, you better get to cover quickly. The Trandoshans also have a few weapons of their own. They have a slug thrower, which is literally a shotgun. The Trandoshan warlords have this chain gun, which deals insane amounts of damage. And let's not forget about the Wookiees. The Wookiees that look like they ate other Wookiees. But anyways, they have some serious firepower of their own. They have a lock-on rocket launcher and the famous Wookiee bowcaster, both of which you can use. So as you can guess, the game features a huge variety of weapons to suit your playstyle. However, the temporary weapons are usually pretty scarce. I would have liked being able to use these temporary weapons more often, maybe by giving them a slight ammo boost, but I can understand that they wanted to keep the DC-17 as your main weapon. Now as for the enemies themselves, there are a decent variety of enemies. Each faction has their fodder enemies that are very easy to defeat. Usually one melee strike is enough to finish them. Then you have your strong enemies, so for example the Geonosian Elite, the Super Battle Droids, and the Trandoshan Mercs. Then you have your really strong enemies like the Droidicas, the Spider Tanks, and the Trandoshan Warlords. My main problem with the enemies of this game is something that was very common for games back during that time, and that was all of these enemies are bullet sponges. The stronger enemies will take a full clip or multiple grenade throws to defeat, so you're basically sitting there, shooting, and waiting for the enemies to be defeated. The enemies are one of the main reasons why I felt that the game was padding its runtime in a few select areas throughout the game. Now luckily, we have our trusty Delta Squad to back us up in any situation. In this game, squad management is the core mechanic of this game, and even after all of these years, it still holds up as the best feature. So managing your squad is pretty straightforward. You have 4 general formations for your squad. First is search and destroy. This is where your squad mates go on the offensive and seek out targets to eliminate. For the most part, they'll usually go ahead of you, so make sure you're managing your squad regularly. Second is form up. As the name implies, this is where your squad form up around you and they follow your lead. I personally found myself using this command most often, as I prefer to move as a unit. Third is defend position. This is where you place down a marker at a location, and your squad will then hold that position. If there are any walls or areas where they can take cover, they will do so automatically. The final command is to cancel any combat actions that they might be in. So if you've got all of them in sniping formations, then this command will tell all of them to leave their posts. Now what do I mean by combat actions? Well, there are 3 types of actions you and your squad members can perform: offensive, defensive, and hacking. The best part is when you order someone to do a certain action, they will do it no matter what, which is great. Offensive combat actions are where you assign a random squad member to a certain offensive position. like a sniper position, anti-armor, or a turret. The game will always choose the closest character to the spot, so there's not a lot of character-specific control. However, your squad members do have infinite ammo, and their aim, especially in the sniping mode, is insane. They literally have an aimbot which will kill any enemy almost instantly. So basically, always put your squad into those positions as soon as possible because it gives you a massive advantage. You can also order your squad to focus their fire on a single target by hovering your reticle and pressing your squad command key. This feature is very useful for taking out stronger enemies quickly. The only limitations of these positions are that they are preset. So it means that if there is a sniping position, then that's the only thing your squad members can do if assigned to it. Defensive combat actions are where you can command your squad member to heal up, or if a squad member falls, then you can order someone to go and revive them. The best part about these defensive actions is that if you fall, you become incapacitated and you have a few options. You can either order your squad to continue their objective, which is basically to eliminate all targets in the area, then to revive you, or you can order them to revive you immediately, or finally you can load from the last checkpoint. It's actually surprising that so many other squad-based games that came out after this, like Mass Effect for example, did not have this feature, even Mass Effect Andromeda. And this is one of the reasons why I love this game, and I love what this game accomplished almost 20 goddamn years ago. Finally, you have hacking or breaching. This is where you command a random squad member to either plant a bomb or slice into a terminal. You can also command all of your squad members to breach through a door. Usually, slicing a door is quieter and slower, which allows you to sneak up and get into positions, whereas breaching is faster, but you alert everyone within the vicinity. Personally, since I'm more of a guns blazing type of person, I always pick the breaching option, and I never really had any issues. One thing I do love is that all of these actions are something that you can perform as well, with the same level of efficiency. Now, I know in the first few minutes of the game establishes that certain characters are better at certain things, like Fixer is better at hacking, Scorch is better at explosives, and Sev is better at combat. But I think that since there is no individual control over your squad members, they more than likely scrapped that idea and just made everyone equally as effective, which for its time was a good decision. Since this game was meant to be more of a relaxed experience, they probably wanted to keep the micromanagement to a minimum, and I'm really glad they did. In conclusion, Republic Commando is easily one of the best games I've played. It is a game where you can just chill, relax, and play at your own pace. The campaign is short and sweet. Once you're done with the game, you can simply move on, and there's no real reason for you to come back to this game, unless you personally want to. There's no pointless in-game store or currencies, or some sort of weekly grind that you have to complete, or even a battle pass system. Games from the early 2000s really respected the player's time, and didn't forcefully include garbage mechanics to arbitrarily pad the game's lifespan. Maybe that's one of the reasons I still play older games to this day, and I have a hard time playing any of the newer games, because they just don't follow any of the industry's best practices. Republic Commando had mechanics that were definitely way ahead of its time. Its music and graphics were incredible and still hold up to this day. Now, I did not cover the multiplayer in this review because no one really plays the multiplayer, although it is surprisingly well made. You have the option of either playing as a clone commando or a Trandoshan merc, both of which have multiple different customizations you can do. But maybe one day, if they do a remake or a remaster, I will then do a review of the multiplayer as well. I also have a yearly playlist of games that I strive to play on a yearly basis, and after playing Republic Commando, I can confidently say that this game has earned its spot within that yearly playlist. I'll be replaying this game regularly for many more years to come. And that's all I have for this review. If you want to see more, make sure to click on the playlist in the middle of your screen. If you want to see my latest uploads, click on the top left, or if you want to let YouTube's algorithm decide, click on the top right. And as always, I will see you in the next video.